Hey, what's up, my friend? How are you? Welcome into Drummer Daily. Once again, my name is Daniel, and I'm so happy that you have chosen to join me once again. So today, I wanted to talk about rudiments, drum rudiments. This is something that I don't think that we've talked about much here on this show. I did a quick look earlier today through the old episodes of Drummer Daily. There's a lot of them, so I didn't look through all of them, but I did a quick look. And I don't think that I've talked about rudiments much at all on the show. And so I thought now might be a good time to do it. And I started thinking back through my own kind of experience with drum rudiments. Interestingly, and maybe not too interestingly, but to me at least interestingly, I haven't done much with the rudiments in the sense of like working on them. I haven't done that in years. I have a couple of books. I have the Podemski's snare drum book, which is an old classic. I think it probably has been around since like the 60s or whatever. And I took some lessons after high school from a guy here in town who's a professional. He's toured with a lot of big artists, and he had me on that book. So I worked on it. I think I worked on rudiments a little bit then, but probably not since then. So it's probably been an easy 15 years since I've really done focus work on rudiments. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that today. And maybe you're in the same situation, or maybe you're the exact opposite of me. Maybe you are way into rudiments, or not way into them, but you know them all, and that's still an important part of your practice routine. And so I just wanted to kind of share my own kind of maybe somewhat embarrassing history with the rudiments, and tell you where I'm at now with my playing, and how that's played into being a professional drummer. So I definitely in middle school and in high school, throughout the band experience, rudiments were obviously very important. In fact, as a musician taking a class in school, we were tested on those things. So, I got part of my grade in band was, of course, my ability to play certain rudiments. And, as we got older and went through the different grades, the number of the basic, was there 26? See, I'm so embarrassed. I don't even know how many rudiments there are. There's 26. At least there was when I was in high school. There's probably like 800 now. But anyway, we were tested on those. There were more and more each year that we had to know. And, I was just fine with all the basic ones, the paradiddles and the double paradiddles, and of course the flams and flam taps and single drags and all those different kinds of things like that. The flamadiddles, all those kind of things, which those names are incredible. But I will say, like, some of the ones to this day, I can't do a consistent rudiments. I'm not good at all with doing Swiss triplets that start on my left hand. I'm just fine with my right hand. It's kind of like a lot of the rudiments to me are kind of like when you start saying the same word over and over again, it starts sounding really weird and kind of gets inside your head. That definitely would happen with me with rudiments. With like Swiss triplets, if you know what those are, it would, I would start to quickly notice the fact that each hand in Swiss triplets is only doing 2 hits. And I would start to like think about the sets of 2 instead of the triplet feel. It just, all this weird stuff like that would happen with me. So I've never been good at certain ones of those, but obviously I made a career in music and as a drummer. And I would say it's both because of my ability with rudiments and also despite my inability with rudiments. And so let me tell you what I mean. I do think that rudiments are important, and I want to be clear that I'm not at all advocating for abandoning that pursuit. If you're a drummer who goes that way with rudiments, don't abandon it. But I will say that there's a distinct line between 2 different kinds of drummers, and one type of drummer almost 100% of the time is the kind of drummer that is what I would say one category of drummers is where all the professional paid musicians fall into, and then the other category that approaches rudiments differently, they all fall in the other category, and they're all the ones who don't get paid gigs. And I'm not saying that if you change how you approach rudiments, that's going to get you gigs. What I'm saying is, I think the way that you approach drum rudiments is going to be a symptom of how you think about drumming, and will be a good indication to you if you need to maybe shift your perspective on your playing or not. So again, I'm going to describe two different types of players as far as how they relate to rudiments, and and I'm going to tell you which one is the one that gets all the gigs. But I'm not telling you that if you're the kind that doesn't get all the gigs, you approach rudiments in a way that doesn't get all the gigs, that all you have to do is change how you approach rudiments, and all of a sudden you're going to start getting gigs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a symptom. This approach, whatever you do with the rudiments, is a symptom of the kind of drummer you are in your approach to drumming. So that's what would need to shift, not just how you approach rudiments. Okay, so first let me tell you how other drummers are. This is not the way that I approach rudiments. These are other drummers that I went to school with, and other drummers that I happen to encounter along my own musical path through all the many years. That was someone who was definitely into rudiments and knowing them all, and was a great, great, great marching percussionist. They could play these perfect rudiments. They knew them all. And if you said, play a Radimacue, leading with your left hand, they'd pop one off just like that. It was perfect. And if you showed them a piece of music and you wrote over each segment of a song, this is where the double paradiddle is, this is where the flam tap happens, this is where the Swiss triplet happens, and you labeled them all, they could go through and just play that piece of music perfectly and be great. And their drumming as a result, if they ever actually got around to playing on the kit, and a lot of them did, their drumming as a result was I'm trying to think of the right word. It was almost like a Frankenstein pieced together creature of different rudiments, just one after the other. It was very robotic. It was, I'm playing a drum pattern on the drum kit, and I'm using a double paradiddle. And then they would switch and do a drum fill that was one of the other rudiments. And it was all like this. It was just rudiment after rudiment. It was copy and paste and cut and paste, different things you've learned, and just thrown them all together one after the other. And that's what your playing was, or that's what their playing was. So that's one kind of drummer. The kind of drummer that I was I wanted to be good at the rudiments. I just, for whatever reason, I loved the music and creating music with other people more than I loved playing perfect rudiments or executing something flawlessly on my instrument. So I tried really hard, but mentally I couldn't get over the hump of I'm not equating what I'm playing into something musical. This is not fitting into something musical. So thankfully I was in school enough to where I was forced to continue to work on those rudiments, because I think if I wasn't in school or didn't have some kind of structure around my musical training, I think that I would have given up. And so I definitely don't think any of us should give up on working on rudiments. But I didn't ever get to that point where I was like those other drummers I just described to you. But I also, at least when I was younger and was playing drum set a lot, like I was playing the drums for like the show choir, like musical theater, I filled in on that a few times for another guy. This was like in high school years, things like that. When I was young and playing drum set, I wasn't like the two worlds didn't match up to me. Like one thing was the rudiments and like playing marching band and all of that technical stuff and being perfect. And then playing drum set was like something completely different. I wasn't thinking about rudiments while I was playing drums. But over the years, especially after I got out of high school, and I at first was still trying to work on these rudiments. Like I mentioned, I took lessons after school when I didn't have to. I paid for my own lessons, and the guy, he was making me work on rudiments still. During that time period, he opened my eyes to almost like this in between, but actually I think it's something deeper in drumming than just one or the other. So it was, if I could get really comfortable playing rudiments and not think about a paradiddle as just a repeating pattern of this specific sticking with this specific accent. If I could just get comfortable playing all of them, and at some point it would unlock the musical language that rudiments can provide. Let me tell you what I mean. So my playing now, I incorporate probably all of the rudiments into my playing. But when I do that, I'm not consciously thinking this is a triple paradiddle, or this is a bunch of flam taps or whatever, with my left hand leading or whatever, or this is, whatever it is. That's not how I think about it. I think about it as my hands just need to play this sound, and the arrangement of my drums necessitates that I have to do it with this specific sticking. And I just play it. I don't pre-plan what rudiment I'm going to use to accomplish something. I just do it. And the way I think about this is kind of like, and I might have used this analogy in the podcast before, so forgive me, but it's kind of like language. And it's like I don't really know any French, for example. My wife took French in high school. I took Spanish in high school. So I know a little bit of the Spanish language. And so I can piece together how to say something based on the words that I know. And it comes close to making sense most of the time. But compare that to like French. I don't know any French at all. But I've heard people say like the same sentences over and over again. I know what those whole sentences mean, but I don't know what each individual part actually means. So I couldn't create anything new out of that because I don't have the familiarity with all of the language in order to just create my own sentences, my own statements, my own thoughts. The English language, I don't think about every word I'm going to say or every sentence I'm going to say before I say it. I know what I want to say, and I open my mouth and it comes out pretty much how I want it to come out most of the time. And that's kind of how it is, I think, where I've gotten with drumming. But the rudiments were the tool that got me there most of the way. It was getting my body used to saying all different kinds of things all the time. So I had all of that in my vocabulary. So now when I play drums, I don't have to pre-plan how I'm going to execute what I need to execute. I just start speaking, so to speak, with my instrument, and I say what I want to say. And so that's if that's your approach, the people that I know that are really great getting gigs as drummers and sessions and are in demand, people want to be in bands with them, all of those kinds of things. The musical drummers, they're doing that. They're doing the thing where they want to use the language in the best way possible to say something musically without having to overthink it or pre-plan it. But you can't do that if you don't have the vocabulary in your back pocket. So it's kind of in your back pocket. So it's kind of both and. It's, yeah, you need the rudiments, but not to directly use them the way you learned them. It's what you're learning along the way in the pursuit of those rudiments that will get you where you want to be in your drumming. And so this is kind of similar to what I talked about, I believe in one of the last few episodes about how I think you should use like drum lesson tutorial websites. It's not necessarily about completely executing the thing you're learning so that you can repeat it whenever you need to and have a new thing to do. It's what you learn in the pursuit of that will actually be the most beneficial to your drumming. You'll be equipped the best with that. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if it does or doesn't. My email is daniel@danielhadaway.com, or you can just go to danielhadaway.com and click on the contact button and fill out a form and let me know if, hey, that didn't make any sense at all, or tell me what you might want to know or have me share in this podcast. I'd love to hear from you and love to chat with you. I try to answer every email that I get. Sometimes I get a lot of emails in a short amount of time, and it gets really hard for me to respond to all of them. But most of the time, I'm able to reply to all of them. So I'd love to hear from you. All right. Thanks for joining me today on Drummer Daily. We'll talk again soon. Bye for now.